McDaniel can't move on it. Now he does. The shot, passing down. Rebound, score!
Hey, welcome to the Toe and Crease podcast, where we talk about anything and everything to do with the NHL. I'm SJ, that's the co-host WillyDubz right there.
Yo, what's up, everyone? Hockey season is basically back at this point, and I think I don't know. I feel like everybody's stoked, but I think there's nobody else as stoked as us when it comes to that. I think
it's officially started with the Panthers apparently not missing a beat despite losing two first-line players. Granted, it is Chicago, but I was watching the game and holy shit, it looks exactly the same.
It's funny too, because I don't know if you watched the full thing, but there was at one point where Reinhardt had to go into the dressing room to get stitches, and Rodriguez left the game for a short bit too. So they were down to 10 forwards, and they were it still just looks so easy.
I remember just watching parts of the game, and Fleur was dominating, but it wasn't. You know when you're watching the game and you're not fully aware of what the box score is, it's not registering. You're kind of just watching the flow, and it was 2-1 Florida, and I think they had 15 shots, and Chicago had 3. And it was a 2-1. I was just like, this is the most...
Yeah, you texted me about this earlier. You texted me about it. You were hey, man, Chicago only has X amount of shots.
And it's crazy. Guys went out during the game, but then it's Mackey steps up for them. Verhaeghe, who's obviously just, again, way overqualified for where he is, just steps up. It's just weird. I can't explain it. But yeah, now, season starting, we still have to finish up our season preview. And to be honest, I don't think Chicago, unless they, Chicago winning or losing this game one way or another wouldn't have really changed my opinion of how I think the Central is going to play out. So I figured it was just fine. We're doing this at this time anyway. So we'll just kind of jump right into it.
Spoiler alert. I guess for people aren't going to care because they're not going to listen to this in real time. Spoiler alert, the Yankees just tied it. Man, see, I told you guys, Toronto sports fans, you can never have anything good.
Ranking for most tortured fan bases. It's Minnesota, Toronto. Man, I will say, I'll give Judge this. He is putting the Yankees on his back during this playoff series.
Man, I don't know how he hit that one out. People will probably be able to Google the clip and see it, but I thought the ball was so far in his hands that he'd probably just yank it foul, but ugh.
I thought it was going foul, but just the way it was veering, I just thought it was going foul the way he hit it, but then when the camera starts zooming in, you see it, you're like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, you saw it too, right? You were like, oh.
Yeah. No, because I thought it was going foul. Because when the camera doesn't zoom in on it close, it always just, I just assume it's going foul, but it was just a long foul ball.
We brought it.
Yeah, no. If the Yankees lose this, it's not on Judge. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's on Jazz Chisholm because Jazz Chisholm apparently turns into Danny Hemmerling when the playoffs happen. So.
Okay, for context,
have you seen his?
Okay,
have you seen
I'm not familiar with Danny
numbers?
Hemmerling, so you might have to give some context. I don't know if
other viewers are. If anyone remembers Angels in the Outfield, the movie, Danny Hemmerling was the infielder that couldn't hit, and he had that one play where he hits it in the infield, and the A's make 20 errors because the Angels and they lose.
Wait, 20 errors? What do you mean 20 errors?
It's you have to watch the scene.
Okay,
let me see if I can find it.
Okay. You don't have to show it here, but I'll just I'll link it in the comments probably at some point. I'll link it in the comments for the people that want to.
But yeah, Jazz Chisholm's playoff stats. His career, he's a career 171 batting average with a 236 OBP and a 268 slugging percentage.
For context, how many playoff games has he played and which
22.
teams? I'm assuming some of them were with the Marlins.
So one with the Marlins. 3 with Miami, but 19 with New York.
So he had the ones. Okay, so he played that small set. I think that one series with the Miami finally lost, right?
And then
Miami
last year they made the World Series and lost.
Yeah. Okay, so some of them is okay. So this is and it's a small but still somewhat big enough sample size. Okay, fair enough. Because I was just wondering if it was you're gonna tell me it's you're just telling me it's a couple it's all just maybe last season's postseason run, then although it kind of mostly is, right? It is mostly last.
It is,
it's
but I mean, you kind of just want a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. Especially when you consider the protection that Judge affords, and Stanton to a lesser extent. when he's when he's right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
Like, it's
lie.
not like Judge is like the most feared. Sorry, it's not like Jazz is the most feared hitter in this lineup. It's there's Judge, there's Bellinger this year, there's Stanton. Like, there's just better hitters, right? But
we're literally turning into the New York Yankees with all our errors. Like, oh god, like we are the New York Yankees right now. I don't know. You saw the Barger drop anyways too, so that's pretty bad. Although I don't know if I
just
agree
don't
with
get why they didn't walk Judge.
That's fair. I guess, like, yeah, I mean, your bases loaded, one extra run is not the end of the. If the guy hits it out, it's one extra one. Boo hoo. And although Ben,
I don't know.
also Ben Rice hasn't been.
I sometimes feel like teams try to get. I don't know if it's Judge. Like, they were walking Vlad early in the game. Just walk Judge. Who cares?
Yeah, the Vlad walk was kind of interesting, but I think it worked.
I thought it was smart. Teams need to. Okay, here's my take in baseball in general. Teams need to use the intentional walk more often. It is mind-boggling to me that they don't. Like, I don't understand it. I don't.
Is there like a hockey equivalent of that where, like, you don't put your best like shootout guy third? I don't know. Is there like a hockey equivalent for that kind of stuff where they make like boneheaded like decision? Like, is there any like kind of similar-ish kind of decisions? I'm always trying to relate this back to hockey, right? Because like we are a hockey pod after all.
I think sometimes to me it's the idea of when people try to get fancy on the power play and don't just put their 4 best forwards in one D-man. It's like there's a simplicity to just doing that, right? And sometimes
actually, I don't mind when you go 3 best and then like your 4th forward's still pretty good, but like he's like the net front presence or like the bumper spot. I don't mind that as much. Or you put a defenseman in the bumper spot. I've seen that happen a bit more in the OHL. I don't know if you watched London's. I think it was London's power play. They put a defenseman in the bumper slot, but like I know teams are trying.
How many teams move every year? Almost nobody watches the OHL. Judging by how.
Okay. Well, I mean, London's the one exception, right? They've never moved, so it's like
Yeah, no, they're
actually a good team.
They're to the OHL what Alabama is to college football. Legit, that's what they are.
Well, you mean Alabama a few years back, right? Because I think it has changed quite a bit since, right? It's not Alabama's not.
They're still really good. Fine, they're like what
okay.
Ohio State is, I guess.
Okay, fair.
But like Alabama's still really good, I think.
Because I was gonna say because Alabama's like hasn't been as good. I think it's because of the NIL money that's kind of fucked them over. But yeah.
Well, no, it's because Nick Saban retired.
Well, I think it's a combination of both, right? Because I think he retired because he just like
part of it was the money. College coaching matters so much that like I don't know how to explain it. It's like when you lose a coach, sometimes it takes years to actually replace the guy properly.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's not. I find that
Florida had a lot of guys.
A lot of guys bump around, go bounce between different jobs, right? Like I've seen a bunch of different coaches coach somewhere 1 year and then like. In a few years, they're at another place. They're at another like school, right? So,
well, they're usually trying to upgrade. But yeah, Alabama's ranked 8th in the country right now, so not bad.
Okay. I think I'm just used to them being
so moving on.
I'm just used to them being like number 1 in the country. But yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think the thing with the NIL now is because it kind of balances out. Again, now that I feel like everyone was always paying players, but like now. Teams can flex the money, like Oregon, right? Oregon's biggest donor is Phil Knight, who owns Nike, right? Like, so you're not beating them if Oregon just wants to overpay for a player in NIL, they're gonna get them, right? It's the same. There are other teams that have really insane donors too. It's the same thing. You're not winning.
Does it? So you wouldn't go on the stance that NIL money kind of ruined college sports, right? Or you kind of like.
No, I'm in the boat where I think players should get paid for what they do because, again, if it was like let me put it this way. If it was like the CHL where most of these teams aren't really making sizable money. Again, we talk about the financial situations, how precarious they are, where like some teams are moving like every year almost, right?
Yeah.
With the exception of like, the stalwart teams like Rimouski, like, Laval, like, London, right? Like teams like that. Every team, it seems like, other team seems like it's like there's been a different Mississauga team. I think like 5 times in the last decade alone, or like Mississauga Brampton. It's weird. It's been like a new team every time. So like if it was something like that, sure. But when like coaches are getting paid, like when coaches are the highest paid public person in the state, and they're making multi-million dollars, and like the university's making money hand over fist, and The TV contracts are what they are. I'm completely fine with players getting paid, what they're worth. It's just I do think there should be some structure to it, and there should be like multi-year contracts versus you just being able to like leave in a year kind of thing. But overall, I think overall it is a net positive though, because it has kind of evened out the field in a weird way, right? It's not just the SEC now where it was. It's like, again, you see teams who are like teams who can now flex their financial muscle getting involved. It's kind of interesting.
That's fair.
Like, I mean, let me
again,
put it this way,
I don't
right?
watch
Like,
I don't watch a lot of college football, so I'm like I just remember like I occasionally tune in for the championship game. Like it always felt like Alabama was there. Like maybe that's just
I don't either as much, but like I did recently because again, Carolina, the Panthers suck. But
so you're looking for
like,
a new franchise QB, yeah.
yes, but in the SEC alone too, right? Texas A&M, Texas, they're known for oil money, right? So now they can pay whoever the fuck. Like Oregon again, Phil Knight owns like Nike. Ohio State is just one of the best run college football programs. Period. Like they've never. I think they have one down year the entire time I've been in. Like Michigan has a lot of money as well, right? Like it's just different teams that can now get involved. And again, I assume players were being paid in some capacity before, but now that's all legal, you can do a lot more frivolous shit. So that's what makes it more interesting.
That's fair. Okay. So I guess maybe you want to...
The way I look at it, it's like, not to use this analogy, but comparing it to like prostitution in a way, right? It's like, it goes on, but it's like under the radar. But if it ever became legal, you'd see people do some crazy shit. Like you'd see like a brothel next to like, I don't know, Toys R Us or something probably. Like,
is it? I'm just curious. I don't know. I've never been to like, for example, like Amsterdam. But I'm pretty sure it's like it's legal in Amsterdam. No, like
it's crazy. There's like different blocks you can go where like there's like a grocery store, and then 2 blocks down there's like a brothel where like these women are just in the windows staring at people walking by. It's like weird. It's weird spot.
Okay, so it is. So yeah, it is. So when you mean that like, it'll be crazy, like for example, like being beside like a weird obviously being beside a Toys R Us would be weird.
It's like let me go pick up groceries and then get a blowy and go home. Yeah, pretty much.
That's crazy.
Nice catch by Judge there. Nice catch.
Oh boy. All right, so I guess we might want to deep dive. So I think for those who are wondering what's going on here, we're gonna
talk about what I think is the most competitive division in hockey. And we saved what I think is the best division for last. Does it maybe have the most like the teams that'll make the finals? Maybe not, but I think it's the deepest division, top to bottom, the Central. This is kind of weird because it was hard for me to pick this one, and there are teams I think that can improve, but still be worse in Like I think a lot of these teams will improve in points, but be worse in standing. If that makes sense, just because this division
will be worse or finish where they were before, essentially, like in the same spot they finished before. So,
but like legitimately, I think they're better. Like the way I look at these teams, are better on paper than they were last year, which is kind of weird to think about. There's also the potential, like we were talking about our season previews, and we're talking about the idea of like each division getting 4. There is a chance that this division could get 5, and the Pacific could only get 3. There is that possibility as well.
Well, I was going to joke. We started with the Pacific because, like, so for those who don't know, we went from weakest to strongest division, right? So the weakest we think is the Pacific, and I think the three from teams in the Pacific and the 5 in the Central. I think it actually is it's a legitimate possibility.
Yeah, if LA falls off and if Vancouver's not like if Pedersen doesn't rebound to what his peak, there's definitely a possibility that it could be 5 Central teams without question. All right. Anyways, we'll cut into the Central Division preview. Start with the team we think was going to finish last. It's Chicago, right?
Yep, Chicago.
There's not much to say about this team. For me, the whole concept of this team is just you have to just figure out who the future is. Like, who's going to be in the long-term plans of this team, at least on the forward side? Who's going to fit alongside Bedard and Nazar? Because I don't really think last year, outside of Ryan Donato, it was a real struggle to find players to fit alongside Bedard. Like, in theory, because Bedard's such at a young age, he's a really good shooter, they thought Teravainen would fit, and I understood the rationale, but it just hasn't worked. And Tyler Bertuzzi's obviously, like, a really physical player and can muck it up, but leaves a little bit to be desired on the playmaking side at times. So I think outside of Donato, who actually showed good chemistry with Bedard, I think it's about finding who fits with him and finding who fits with Nazard on the forward line. I don't know what your opinion was on the forwards beyond that, but
I mean, their forward core just feels really, really. It does feel weak because apart from Bedard and like Nazar, like they don't have any like there's nobody else. They're kind of just there's nobody else that's going to stick there long term because obviously Nazar they signed that big-ish deal, so he's going to be part of the plans. And Bedard, like, there's no shot he's going anywhere at this point, right? So those are the only two I see being here long term. I could see Donato sticking around just because, again, you mentioned good chemistry with Bedard, but I don't know. Like, I don't see, for example, Andre Burakovsky. I don't see Bertuzzi. I don't see even Teravainen sticking around for them, like, for a very long time. Because they tried Teravainen with Bedard, and if that didn't work, then I don't know what will work for him, right? So
I think what's interesting is if Frondel ends up being what they think he's going to be, I think there's potential to put Bedard at the wing at some point.
Yeah,
like
so right now, I mean, Frondel's got off to a pretty good start to his season. I think from what I saw, he had like, I don't know if is it like 5 goals in 3 games or something ridiculous to start the year. So looks like he's cooking he's cooking. So he might be the future 1C, but again, too early to judge because haven't seen him play an official NHL game yet. So
I do wonder if like Bedard's future is at the wing, like Tage Thompson, and in this case, if Chicago's just going to be drafting centers, it might actually make sense because I don't know if Bedard doesn't improve the face-off side, it is a strong possibility that you just slot him along at the wing. And honestly, like being able to play offset with the way he shoots might actually be the future. But again, that's like a couple years down the road. We're not figuring that out. And I think the other thing to figure out is just with them is on defense. It's like that whole Rinzel, Levshunov, Vlasic, and maybe later in the year Korchinski, like how that's all going to shake out. Maybe one of them gets traded for a forward asset. I will say the Levshunov over Demidov, while it is really early, does not look great when you consider where they're projecting him to play right now. But overall, I think the defense is just about figuring how those three, and then like I said, if Korchinski comes up where he shakes out, they signed Grzelcyk to be like a veteran puck-moving defenseman on like the bottom pair, which is fine. But overall, I mean, it's a young defense that's going to make a ton of mistakes. So again, it's just figuring out who goes where and what the future is projecting going forward.
I think part of the problem too with Chicago is just, I mean, there was an obvious lack of forwards, but the D core is still lacking a bit too because they're kind of being forced to play Grzelcyk in like the first pairing right now. They're playing with Rinzel. And then Kaiser Levshunov looked okay today. Like I watched them, it seemed fine. Kaiser moved the puck well. Levshunov looked fine. I actually think he played better than Rinzel today after watching. Rinzel looked a little bit nervous, didn't look great on the PP. And then Murphy's like a solid bottom pairing defenseman, but they're still a bit lacking there. And then maybe Korchinski comes up at some point, but even Korchinski last year didn't look. I mean, he didn't really impress me. Yeah. So at some point, one of those guys has to get traded for a forward. Also, you have to assume one of them hits, right? I'm not saying they all could fail, but like mathematically, one of them has to work out, right?
For sure. And like I think a lot of these guys are going to be tradable assets with the picks they have, just to see where it goes. And then I think the other thing too is just with this year, just evaluating Spencer Knight. Like I said, he looked really good in the Fire today, and he didn't honestly look horrible in Chicago when you consider how bad the play was around him. He wasn't but I think he's a good piece, and I think he's a nice bet to take on for the future going forward. He again former first round pick, just kind of found himself in a weird spot in Florida. Like I think it's a change of scenery is fine. But overall, like again, all this team is just figuring out what's the future. Like the future in that night going forward. Who's our future number one pairing defenseman out of our young guys? Who's the future forwards that are going to play with Bedard and Nazar? And are they even on the roster right now, right? And that's what this team's going to figure out. I think the X factor for this team is just Connor Bedard. It's just what's his ceiling? Because we know he's good. We know he's like he's probably gonna be an 80-point guy, I think. But like how much higher can he go is the real question, and that determines a lot about this team. Like what this team's ceiling kind of goes as Connor Bedard, because don't get me wrong, Nazar's a dog, but he doesn't profile to be the same level of offensive player or even close that Bedard's going to be. So Nazar profile is more of a two-way guy with a lot of hustle. So this team ceiling really goes as Bedard goes.
I think the other thing with Bedard too that makes him the X factor is like is where he ends up position wise, because I think that does have a significant impact on how you draft and like what pieces you put around him, right? Because if he ends up sticking at center, you do have a bit of a logjam with Frondel, Bedard, and like Nazar. But like if you know if Bedard doesn't profile well as a center, and he, I'll be honest, he hasn't looked great on the faceoffs, you may have to settle for moving to the wing, and maybe if Frondel moves up, then you can figure things out. That's fine too. Mm-hmm. But I think part of that is figuring out his position. Does he get to that 80? Like we think he can get to that 80 point, 90 point kind of guy, but so far we haven't seen it. Also, he was one of the most hyped like prospects coming out of the draft, I think in the past few years, because everyone was talking about him going number one. Everyone was talking about his shot. Everybody was talking about how he played the game offensively at such a high level, and we haven't seen it quite yet in the NHL. Like it hasn't hit the same way. For example,
I think it's
I was gonna reference Celebrini.
Consistent.
Yeah, like Celebrini hit the ground running, whereas Bedard and Celebrini was less hyped than Bedard, right? Whereas Bedard came in, he had a good first year, kind of okay second year, but hasn't shown that the flashy offensive game that we saw back in junior.
Like Celebrini felt like looks like when he came in, and again, I just knew him because of the whole, obviously number one pick and the whole like Golden State Warriors, his dad.
Yeah, his dad being in part of the medical staff, right?
I didn't know the level, but yeah, when he came in, it just looked so smooth. Like him playing center wasn't even not playing center wasn't a consideration. Like it just looked really smooth. Whereas with Bedard, it has been a bit choppy, and there have been times where like, the hustle, like the defensive play, which again is going to happen with young guys, the face-offs, like there have been things he has struggled with, but overall I think he's fine. And this realistically, like unless this team hits on, if it's knock on wood, this team gets Gavin McKenna in the next draft or something, Bedard is going to be their highest ceiling player probably in the near future. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, moving on to this team in second last, Nashville.
Yep, I had Nashville. I think this is the best example of what we talked about, is where this team is going to be better points-wise, but they're probably just going to end up in the same position standing-wise as they did last year. Because a lot of things kind of went wrong for the team last year. It was the pure definition of Murphy's Law, where anything that could go wrong literally went wrong.
They were the season from hell. Like, they were one of the season from hell teams, 100%. Like, you talk about injuries to your key players, guys underperforming, shooting, like, again, just bad puck luck overall. This team had it all. And again, my thing, I just asked, like, my question for this team was, how far will positive regression just carry this team? Like I said, this team should just be better on regression to the mean, because we talked about this in our 5 teams that would be better. They were 32nd in goals for, but if you look at every underlying number, they weren't that bad. Like, they were 9th in shots for, 14th in expected goals for, and 18th in high danger
chances for, exactly. Like, so they weren't the worst offensive team, like metric wise in the league, right? So you can't. I'm not going to say you can't have another year that bad again, but you can't. I expect that you can't shoot that badly again, right? Like, it has to regress positively, because that's just how things work typically. You don't have back-to-back years that shitty and have
the outliers tend to regress to the mean in any sport when it comes to variable statistics. It's just how it works. And none of their underlying metrics told me they were like if they were last in shots for, last in high danger chance against, last in expect, like something, I'd be like, okay, sure, yeah, makes sense. But this team wasn't. They weren't amazing, but they weren't horrible, right? And I will say the only thing that does kind of what holds me back from this team being beyond this spot is the depth on this team is horrible. Like, let's just be honest, particularly center and defense. Like right now, they're projected to start either Brady Martin or Ryan O'Reilly as their first line center, and Fedor Svechkov as their second line center. Like that, when you compare it to the depth in this division at center, it's just not even close. And then on D, it's basically Roman Josi and a bunch of guys, because Brady Shea was horrible last year, right? So
yeah, the Brady Shea signing has not worked out one bit. It might be one of the worst. Genuinely feels like one of the worst defensive contracts in hockey right now. And even Perbix, who's one of their signings in the offseason, he doesn't profile as a top 4 defenseman. Was
terrible in the
playoffs. And they're playing him in the top 4, so it's kind of out of necessity, right? So their defense isn't going to be better playing a guy but better suited playing bottom 6 pairing minutes, right? So, or bottom pairing minutes essentially.
And because of that, they need Saros to bounce back, because again, Saros at his peak is, and his peak wasn't that far off, like, honestly. Last year he wasn't great. He finished, I think, 51st in goal save above expected, or 50th, something like that. But like, we're talking about a guy who, like, just a couple of years ago, or 2 years ago in 2022, 2023, led the league in goal save above expected, right? And he plays 64 games. He does play volume. They need him and Annunen to kind of bounce back to their norms. Do I think it'll be as bad as was last year? No. Do I think it'll be as good as when he led the league in it? No. I think it's going to be somewhere, again, similar to the regression, just somewhere in the middle.
I was gonna say, at the same time, he doesn't have quite the same team in front of him that he did back in 22-23, right? There was a much better team in front of him in 22-23. Like offensive,
for sure, but he's always been good
wise.
in high danger, though. That's the thing.
He's been good at high danger, but like the problem is, I don't think he has the capability to kind of carry this team on his back. Because I just think like with how many pieces have kind of been ripped away from Nashville and so how many of their signings just haven't worked out, they just don't. They don't have quite the firepower to like vault up the standings essentially.
No, for sure. I just don't think he'll be as bad as he was last year. But again, even if like a lot of these guys regress in a positive way, if Saros bounces back a bit, there's just not enough depth to carry this team beyond this spot. And you're asking a lot of Brady Martin and Fedor Svechkov. Martin, who's, again, just got drafted this past year, and Svechkov, who hasn't really shown a lot of offensive proclivity at this point. And then even if you have Ryan O'Reilly and you move Braden Martin down to 2C, that still is lacking depth. And even on the wings, like the wings aren't like Philip Forsberg is basically like I don't call him a poor man's Pasternak, but he is kind of matchup proof in a way where he'll get his regardless. But like Stamkos is a power play specialist at this point. Marchessault's good, and then Bunting's an okay third line guy, and that's kind of it, right? So overall, like, and again, it's compared to the rest of this division too, where when you start going up the rankings, you see these forward lines, and Nashville just doesn't compare. So yeah, we have them here second last. My X factor is Roman Josi. If he's hurt, this defense has nothing.
Well, he's hurt too. They don't have a power play quarterback. That's the other thing too, because like he's the only defenseman capable of like us running the power play on this team or running it well. If you look at the options they have left, let's list them out. I don't know who. I honestly could not tell you who Adam Wilsby is. I don't think you could tell me who he is either. Brady Shea, I don't think is suited for that role. It's not his kind of game. I don't know who Spencer Stastny is. I've heard of Justin Barron, but he's bounced around.
Justin Barron's like he's a bottom.
He's a bottom six defenseman. Perbix is the same thing, bottom six defenseman. Yeah. So there's like, tell me what options they have here.
They need Roman Josi to be healthy. If they like just him being healthy, like when he's healthy, he's good, right? They just need him to be healthy, and they need him because again, there's nobody else. Like if Ryan O'Reilly gets hurt, it's not ideal, but you can like. Just again, they have Brady Martin at center field. It's not great, but it's like something. There's no
the whole O'Reilly thing too, right? O'Reilly's not the same player he was a few years ago. Right? He's like kind of caps off at like a 50-point, wins a ton of faceoffs kind of guy. So he's not really he doesn't feel like a first line center at this point in his career. So even losing him doesn't feel like that. Roman Josi is still a first pairing, first power play kind of defenseman with elite offensive numbers. He's still up there.
Yeah.
So losing him and the drop off between him and the next guy is just. It is a gap and a half.
Do you remember that year? I can't remember what year it was for Nashville. He almost led Nashville in points, shots, time on ice. It was something ridiculous.
Was that the year you had him in fantasy? I think it was.
I think so.
You probably pointed this out to me when he was in fantasy. Yeah. He was like the only thing keeping that power play afloat, essentially.
And honestly, right now, he's the only thing keeping their defense full. But yeah, because of that, we have them here second last. This is where it gets interesting, because I think those two were like consensus. Who do you have in the next slot?
So I have the Minnesota Wild. It might be a hot take, but this team. So with Minnesota, it's a little bit tricky. So last year, their season was kind of just essentially derailed by a bunch of injuries. But in spite that, they squeezed into the playoffs, right? I think they were missing Kaprizov for almost like half the year. They lost Eriksson Ek for a bit. I think Zuccarello probably got hurt for a little bit too. There was basically just everybody on every good offensive player they had got hurt. The problem I have with Minnesota is obviously between the Zuccarello injury that I think he's out 6 to 8 weeks. So that's already kind of a key blow to their offense because they don't have a lot of guys there to begin with, right? It's kind of Kaprizov. Rossi's not really a shooter, which is kind of an issue. Like he's a good playmaker, but he's not really a shooter. Boldy is probably their best winger. I mean, it's probably their best winger apart from Kaprizov, but losing Zuccarello now, you kind of have to put him up on the first line. And then if you look at their second line right now profiles to be Marcus Foligno, Joel Eriksson Ek, who's good, but then Vladimir Tarasenko, who has shown me nothing since he's left St. Louis. So their scoring is essentially going to come from one line at this point right now. And I don't know far that'll get them there while Zuccarello's hurt.
I had them 4th because here's my thing with them. The main issue with this team is can they squeeze more offense? And there's a couple things like they're a team that what I mean when I say this is they play to their stats. And what I mean by that is when you look at the roster profile, when you look at the team, they play exactly how you think they're supposed to play. Like they didn't score a lot of goals, but they don't generate a lot of chances under John Hines. Like they're 23rd in shots for, 27th in expected goals for, 31st in high danger chances for, and like 20th on the power. Like they're not a team that generates a lot of chances, and they are heavily reliant, admittedly, on that first line, the because Boldy, Rossi, Kaprizov, when healthy, I think they only played 66.4 minutes last year. Their expected goals for percentage was 60.4%. Like they rely a lot on that line to be good. Again, but my thing with this team is they're not a team that relies on offense to begin with. So just Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson, they're being healthy are massive. And I don't think, like, I don't know how to explain this. I don't think them lacking offense hurts them as much because they just play to that style every time regardless, right? Like, they play the same profile. And just having Kaprizov there makes them better. And having Zeev Buium there makes them better as well. Like, what I mentioned is, again, that first line when healthy, oh, come on, Rosario just scored.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Wait, did he make it before Wells did?
I think he did.
Okay.
It looks like he did. And then fucking Jazz did a home run too. The one guy that's been like cold as
Hemmerling.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Again, we're Jays fans. Toronto and Yankees Jays is going on right now, so just bear with us. But like I was saying with the Wild, again, that first line has the potential to be really good as long as they can stay healthy. I think Joel Eriksson is one of the most underrated players in the league. He's what I call an elevator. Like, he elevates whatever line, regardless where he is in the lineup. He could be third line, second line, could be on the first line, doesn't matter. Really good two-way player as well. The only issue is, again, with Zuccarello out, it's a team that doesn't have a lot of scoring depth, like you mentioned, but they're not a team that relies on it to begin with. And all I hope is defensively is that they really they do need more scoring from their defense, but I hope what they do is they kind of let Zeev Buium grow through his mistakes and figure it out, because their upside goes on defense as he goes, and they have enough coverage to like shelter him, where they have Jared Spurgeon, Jonas Brodin, who are solid defense, Brock Faber, who are solid guys that play a lot of minutes and are good defensively, and they can shelter Buium there. I kind of hope that's what they do, because that's where I think the upside comes from, and I think even though their scoring is lacking in general, a healthy Kaprizov, having Kaprizov, Rossi, and Boldy together, plus, again, letting Buium grow, could kind of mitigate the offensive issues a little bit. And then in that, like, Gustafsson, if he's good, you got a top 10 goalie in the league. And Wallstedt is a bit of a question mark because he's new, but he can't be worse than Fleury was last year, I don't think.
Yeah. I think my problem with the team, though, is not the Wallstedt, that it's not really the, like, I guess, like, I know you mentioned they're not expected to score a ton. The problem is when you're a team that doesn't have a lot of offense to begin with, when you start to lose guys, your margin for error just keeps dipping and dipping and dipping. Like losing Zuccarello, like your margin of error went from like this, I don't know if you can see me, to like kind of like this, right? Like any little mistake is kind of magnified. Like, and I know obviously it makes sense for them to let Zeev Buium grow into his power play role, but if he doesn't start the season well, and obviously he is a question mark, right? Like we didn't see him very much last year. We don't really know if he will be that guy. I just think there's just too many question marks with Minnesota between all the injuries, like how well Buium performs. Like, yes, if Buium hits the ground running, like this team will be really good. The problem is that's a big if. There's too many ifs for me for this team.
For me, their defensive ceiling, and it's the Minnesota Mile jokes that kick in here. The defensive ceiling is just so solid. I had to have them, and it's funny too because it's not like they do a really weird, again, John Hines system. They limit high danger chances, so they don't allow a lot of those, but they'll give you shots from the point, and they'll give you shots along the sides. But they really do a good job limiting high danger chances, and their penalty kill is really good. And it makes sense, because if you look at the personnel they have on that penalty kill, it lines up. So I think their defense is giving the floor. Again, my X factor was Zeev Buium, just because if he hits, even if he does hit the ground, even if it's like 20 games, but he hits it, like, now all of a sudden you have something on defense, right? You have,
I am a
now
bit
everyone
their
slots.
PK, though. I know they're good defensively, but their PK, I believe, finished 30th in the league last year. So they're, again, another, like, they have the right personnel. but there are question marks like with them as to like, is that just a 1-year blip, or is that kind of truly representative of the PK they have, right? Again, just another blip, another question mark there. I think there's just too many things that need to go right, essentially. Because I don't think your penalty kill suddenly goes from league, like bottom of the league, to like, let's say like top, like, you know, top half, right? I don't think it just suddenly flips a switch, because I don't even think the coaching personnel has changed that much. So there are some question marks there with that.
The only weird thing about their power play is, like, I think I was looking at the different years, because I think 2 years ago they were top 10. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a personnel. Like, again, I think part of the penalty kill being bad last year was Eric Sidek being out as long as he was. I just kind of assume with a healthy him, and, you know, with some of the guys just kind of growing into the roles more, will be fine. But yeah, no, that's fair enough. I just had them fourth. I'd say Lewis fifth, actually. Now, don't get me wrong. St. Louis, you know, again, you're talking about a minute away from making the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say I'd say Lewis fifth too. So like I think I was debating between them and Minnesota for sixth and fifth. That was kind of where my thought process was. I was trying to figure out where I'd put them. I just thought that St. Louis would be the more.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. I keep doing these rankings like the way I have them stacked. So yeah, I have Chicago last, Nashville seventh, Minnesota sixth, and St. Louis fifth. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, so for those, so you've been kind of just trolling this whole time. I see.
No, I just had them. Yeah, sorry, my fault there. Basically, my thing with St. Louis is it's tough with them because to me, you can flip Minnesota and St. Louis. I think just because Minnesota's kind of St. Louis is a different version of Minnesota. Now, don't get me wrong, right? Like, this team is talented, and like the thing I like about it's weird because the way Jim Montgomery plays his team is it's a very shot suppression oriented team in theory, but they don't have a lot of the personnel to play the way he wants to actually play. If you ever watched, like, there's not a lot of quality like defensive forwards on the team, but they are physical, which can kind of substitute at times. But this team plays kind of weird because you'd think there would be a more up-tempo offense, but this team only really plays in the mid-range of the ice, if that makes sense. They don't shoot a lot close to the net. They don't shoot a lot. Like, they're okay from the point. Everything's literally within that, like, face-off dot areas where they take a majority of their shots. And for me, it's just like, can this team continue to thrive in that mid-range? Because that's a really hard balance to strike, right? Generally, what teams will do is a really good teams will always be high danger or at the point, right? And that's where they kind of generate their pressure. It's really hard to just stay in that mid-range. And I don't know if, like, I don't know
high danger, I think they're 27th. They're 27th for high danger chances too, right? So they're not getting a lot of those quality chances. And I think the problem with teams that are so low in terms of the high danger chances for is that you can get away with that if you have a lot of high quality talent. The problem is St. Louis doesn't really have the high
Tampa's notorious for this.
Yeah, like, but St. Louis doesn't have the high octane offensive talent, right? Like, Robert Thomas is a point per game player, but he doesn't score a ton of goals. He's mostly a 20 goal guy. He thrives a lot off the playmaking. And there's not really I don't want to say there's not really a good shooter on this team, but there's not like an elite kind of shooter on this team, right? Like, Snuggerud's a total unknown. Kairu's kind of okay, but then like Holloway's, we only have one season of data to work with, so that doesn't really tell us much. And Buchnevich has just fallen off the earth, essentially.
Yeah. It's just an interesting matchup, guys, because like this team is really talented and physical in the wings, right? It's a really good mix of like, if you look at the players overall, it's a good mix of physicality and speed because like Snuggerud, Holloway, and Neighbors are physical and they can score, right? Like it's great to have like, you can have one of those guys on a line each. I remember at one point during the playoffs, they put Snuggerud and Neighbors together. It was a nightmare for Winnipeg at certain points. And then a mix of speed because Thomas and Kyrou can just light you up. And it's good because like the rest of this team isn't that fast. It's really just Thomas and Kyrou. So it's a good mix of guys. But the problem is, if Kairou's not their second line center and they're moving him to the wing, the center depth is a massive question mark. Because Shen looked like he was finally hitting his decline last year. And outside of Thomas, the center depth is a really big question on this team. And if you look at this team overall, the team I don't want to elevate Pius Suter up to the second line. Right. That's like he looked fine when he played that role not for this team, but like when he played for last year when he played the second line role for a different team, like he looked fine. The problem is
it's not sustainable for those kinds of players to elevate their game for that kind of role, right? Like it's gonna fall back to earth somehow. Like Shen, you mentioned, is declining. Suter's probably better suited for the third line, so if you keep him there, ideally you just want to keep him there. So I don't know
what
what they
ends
do
up
with the second
happening
line
is
center.
Kyrou ends up taking the second line center as much as it seems like they hate him. But I think Kyrou ends up taking second line center and Shen ends up flexing over to the second line wing. But right now, if Shen's going to stay as 2C, it is a massive question mark. And if you look at this team, the team really peaked last year when Binnington was good in conjunction with the defense, which the defense played really well. The defense is fine. Like it's solid. There's nothing sexy about it. Like Fowler is like fine. And he's probably their best defenseman. There is some upside in Broberg or Mailloux. I am curious if one of them end up taking the power play QB duties. I think, if I'm being honest, Mailloux probably has the most upside of the defensemen on the roster, even including Broberg, just because of his shot-making ability.
I was going to say, too, like, Broberg didn't take power play 1 last year despite being on the roster for the whole year, right? Like, he never really got the shot. So, like, I don't know if that says... Like, I don't know if that...
And Justin Falk was doing nothing with it.
And Falk was doing nothing, too. So you would think that they would just be like, well, we're getting nothing, might as well try something else, right? So...
Yeah. Like, it's a decent mix. There's no one stand out, but it's fun. Like, outside of Falk, who can be a liability at times, there's no one that's like, I'm just alarmed by being there, kind of. I think the question just comes down to, I think this team will go as Binnington's consistency goes, because the Binnington coaster month to month is just insane. And if you look at, like, let me pull up his month to month stats. It's ridiculous how much he's just not, how inconsistent he is. Like 900 save percentage is basically it's a microcosm of what Jordan Binnington is, like month to month. Here, let me pull this up here quickly. So just taking a second to load. But like, because everyone talked about how good he was the second half of the year, and yes, he was, but it was really only 2 months.
Yeah, it was. I think it was February, March, right? It was February, March where he was good, and then like
February, March. February he had a 915 save percentage in 5 games. March 910 in 5 games. But the months before that, October 896 save percentage, November 900,
901,
December 892, January 898,
898,
right?
Yeah.
Pre All-Star break basically was 896 save percentage. Like where this team peaked was when Binnington was good in conjunction with the defense, and like Hofer is a decent backup, but they really need him to be more consistent. And it's not like they don't give him the chance to be consistent. When Jim Montgomery came, the defense picked up substantially. So the opportunity is there. They just need him to be that guy, which is why to me he's the X factor on this team. Because if they're gonna play again, I saw this in Dallas. The way Jim Montgomery plays defense, and the way he demands defense out of his forwards as well. If you're going to play that defensive style, you need your goaltender to back you up as well. And again, it just comes down to how consistent he is. Because if you look at the years where Jim Montgomery was most successful, he had really good goaltending backing him up. He had Ben Bishop in Dallas. He had the Ullmark Swayman duo in Boston. And he needs Binnington to be that guy so they're not just fishing for a playoff spot, basically, right? And they're kind of, and again, because you don't want them to be fighting in the depths of the wild card. They want to be in like that third spot, kind of safe from it. And they need Binnington to be that guy for them to get there. Otherwise, they're going to be fighting with Minnesota. They're going to be fighting with LA in the other division. They're going to be fighting with whoever ends up 5th in the Pacific, like just teams like that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too with St. Louis is like it's not like they don't give Binnington a chance to or a good a good coverage in front of him, right? They were 11th. I think they were 11th in goals against last year, despite with his roller coaster play. But they were 3rd in expected goals against. They were 15th in high danger chances against. So it's not like they're playing it's like they're playing shit in front of him, right? Like Montgomery's system has apparently just works everywhere, regardless of what kind
it's proven. Say what you want, it is proven.
Yeah, it just works, right? So it's just like
the offensive. He gives them a chance. The offensive results are always a bit. Yeah.
Like we knew they were always a bit.
I think it just comes down to him.
That's not his MO. That's not Montgomery's MO at all, right? Like it's good, well structured.
That's not what you signed him up to be, exactly.
Yeah.
And to be honest, my hot take: they need to play defensive because they don't have the center depth to be a run and gun team, and they don't have the scoring depth on defense yet. if Broberg and Mayu hit their ceilings, they can be. But they don't have the talent to be that yet. So they have to win through. I'd have to argue they have to win through defense, goaltending, and counterattacking.
Well, also they don't even have the
and that's
forwards
just-
for that either, right? Like we don't know what Snuggerud is going to be. Holloway, like we don't know. He's a good player, but he's never going to be like a 80, 90 point guy, right? Like he's going to be like a 60, 70 point guy. It feels like that's kind of his ceiling. They just don't have that kind of like goal scoring, right? Like Thomas isn't that kind of guy. Kyrou is kind of inconsistent here to there. Like there isn't that kind of offensive spark across the team. So they need to play good defense, and they need Binghamton to like, not let in shit at times, because otherwise it's going to end up in a dogfight for that wild card spot. And then when you're in one of those wild card spots, you're just going to end up getting your ass kicked in the first round, probably by like whoever you play.
Yeah, because the one thing I'll give Montgomery is he is adaptable to his rosters generally. Like, I remember with Dallas when he first got there, he tried to play a more offensive style, and they kept getting the shit kicked out of them, and he realized they weren't talented enough offensively at the time, and they switched to a very defensive style that got them to the second round of the playoffs. They were one goal away from making it to the Western Conference Finals.
Was that the year they lost to the Blues in Game 7?
Blues,
was that
Robert Thomas, fucking matchbox. Well, like if you look at his team with Boston that year, they won the President's Trophy when they went 65-12, basically. Like they were 9th in shots for, and they were 20th in high danger chances for. They were 9th in shots for and 10th in expected goals for. Right, like if you have the talent, there is offense there to be had. It's just they don't like this team. Again, it's all in the wings, and it's lacking in the center side, which adjusts how Montgomery will play that team versus, again, that team with Boston. While it was older, if you remember, they did have Bergeron, Krejci, Coyle. Like the center depth was a lot stronger on the spine, right?
Yeah, like you had your 1 to 3 like pretty well sorted. Whereas in St. Louis, It feels a little bit questionable because you don't want your 3 to become your 2, and then your 2 to become your 3. That's kind of the situation they're looking at right now. Because Thomas is like the number 1 guy, but even as a number 1 center, I think there's still a little bit of question marks with him. Like, because his goal scoring is always lacking, so it's like how sustainable is like his like.
And Montgomery is very defense first, and like he'll let you take your chances if you have the defense down. And like if you think about that team again. Marchand, decent defensively. Again, Bergeron, all-time great. And like when you have that down, there are chances to be had there. It's just you have to have that down first. And if you remember the defense back then that year, it was Hampus Lindholm, Charlie McAvoy, Matt Grzelcyk, Brandon Carlo. Like it was set defensively, right? So that again, differences between it was just a better defensive roster. So if you don't have that, it's defense first, right? But if they, if this team ends up being where they have to score more, they will. It just comes down to, again, if Binnington can play to the defense, they'll be fine. If he's going to be a roller coaster again, it's going to be rocky.
Agreed.
All right, so before we get into our playoff teams here, so just to confirm, because again, I kind of screwed this up here, we have Chicago in last, Nashville in 7th, the Wild in 6th, the Blues in 5th, even though we think the point totals might be higher for the Blues and Wild potentially. Well, at least the Wild, not the Blues.
Yeah. Like we think.
Okay.
Like also, I think same thing with Nashville too. Point total will be higher, but they're going to finish in the same spot.
Yeah. All right. This was the tough one here for me, 4th. I really wanted to not put this team 4th. Like I wanted to put them in 3rd, but I had to. Utah.
Okay, it is Utah. I was thinking Utah as well.
I wanted to put them 3rd so badly, but like I just couldn't get there, and I really wanted to. Okay, the main question for me with this team is how much of this team is going to break out, because it's like it's there. It is all there. Like they added here's the thing. This team feels like they're like right on the precipice of something massive. I mean, you look at this roster. This team finished 13th in shots for, 13th in expected goals for, 5th in high danger chances for, only 20th in goals for, but there was offense on this roster everywhere. And there's a bunch of guys who can potentially take the next step, right? Like Logan Cooley's only 21. Dylan Gunther's 22, 23.
I think
JJ Peterka's JJ Peterka's young too. Like this roster is, and there's guys, they also have prospects who can come up and provide a shot in the arm that haven't even made this roster yet. But you look at this top 6, right? it's so Gunther. Like, there's the potential. There's Keller, Schmaltz, Paterka, Cooley, Gunther, and that like 5 of those 6 guys are really good players. And again, guys with upside who still have a potential gear to hit.
Yeah, I think in particular, I was gonna say, like, I feel like Cooley and Gunther are the big two that like could really just like take a huge step this year. Like Gunther looked pretty good last year. Like he could, I feel like he could get to 30. How many goals did he have last year? He had 30. He had like roughly 30, right? Like 25, 30 range.
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure because I think I fudged up the numbers. I might have fudged up the numbers while typing this one up, but apparently I have big fat fucking fingers when it comes to this shit. Let's take a look.
but if you look at their lines last year, that
27.
were
Okay,
positive.
close.
If you look at the lines last year that were positive for them, like I do think what it ends up being, like if they play Keller, Cooley, Gunther, stacked. Like I think that's the way it should go. But and even if you have Hayton, Schmaltz, and Paterka on the second line, that's a really good second line, right? For especially again, it's a line with upside. And then even the third line has a bunch of physical guys and a bunch of upside guys as well. Because right now it's projected to be Lawson Krause, McBain, and Daniel Boot. Boot looked pretty good in the preseason. Krause is Krause, right? He's a physical guy who's can probably get you close to 20 goals sometimes, 15 to 20. And McBain's like
30,
a fine
35 points. Like that's all you can ask for out of your 30 line. Right? You just need a little bit of depth scoring, especially if you think the guys in the top 6 are going to take a leap. So like you can kind of get away with that. Plus, like again, you're just looking for any kind of production from your bottom like 2 lines, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Any little bit helps.
The defense is like I think the Kesselring loss will hurt a little bit because he was really good defensively, but the defense is weirdly well balanced. Like there's a puck moving defenseman on every line. I thought the Nate Schmidt signing was genius to fill out that last defensive pairing. And you look at it, you have Sergachev on one pairing, Dursey on another pairing, and Nate Schmidt on one pairing. So it's a puck moving defenseman on every pairing. And then a guy who can provide some level of support. I'm not the biggest Ian Cole guy, but like he's fine.
If he's your third pairing guy, it's whatever, right? Like you can't
like
as long as
John
you're not playing
Marino's solid. Oli Mata was actually pretty as like a reclamation project was actually pretty decent last year. So while I do think the Kesselring loss hurts a bit, I think the defense is well balanced enough. And they were surprisingly good defensively last year. If you look at their advanced numbers, and if you look at even just the shots on goal they gave up, like they weren't bad.
Yeah, I think they were also to reference, like they also allowed the second least amount of high danger chances, right? They were second in the league for high danger chances against, and they're also 5th in expected goals against, right? I don't know how much of their issues were just overplaying Vejmelka, because there was that stretch where he just played every single game.
Man, I really thought at one point, like Jackson Stauber fucked Andre Tourigny's wife because Vejmelka was an Iron. And we talked about this fantasy wise last year because I had him in fantasy hockey, and also it was just insane how many games he was playing in a row because we were doing like a count at one point where we were. Let me pull this up here quickly. I just want to find like the amount of games he played at one point was just absurd. Let me just pull this.
Yeah,
up
I thought it was crazy. I remember at one point, because this is for funny thing fantasy wise. You were basically looking at picking up Utah's backup, but like you never had to because you were like, oh, I'll just grab Stauber for the Sunday back to back, and it was like you always got to hold that out. It was always funny because you and I kept joking about that, and you're like,
so
like
he
crimes against
legitimately played from game 50. Okay, so he didn't play game 57, right? But he played from 58 to 82. He played from 58 to 80. He played every game.
That's crazy.
And then he missed game 81, but played game 82.
Also, for people who don't understand, a lot of times with your starting goalies, like you play them like 4 or 5 games in a row, and then you kind of rest them once and give your backup. So for reference, like he probably should have, like in that chain of games, he probably should have like rested like 4.
No, he played back to back. So like game 62-63 was a back to back. Game 72-73 was a back to back. Like he's game 74-75, but he played back to backs, and even before that, he played a ton of games too. Like he played an insane amount of volume. Like for him to put up a 904 save percentage despite playing basically almost more than 20 consecutive games the second half of the year is absurd.
I am a
And
little bit scared that they're going to do that again because I'm looking at their backup, and right now it shows their backup
Vitek
is
Vanacek.
Vanacek, and I'm a little bit concerned because I'm like, if he's your backup, are you going to have to just play Vejmelka to play him into the
I
ground
don't think so,
again?
because I mean, don't get me wrong, he wasn't great last year, but like Ingram was so. If you look at Ingram last year, even though he didn't play that many games, he was one of the worst goalies in terms of goal save above expected last year. And like, let me pull this up quickly. I'm pretty sure he was what? I mean, he wasn't Georgiev bad. Yeah, he was 98th out of 103 eligible goalies, right? So he was not very. Don't get me wrong, Vanacek wasn't that much better.
Vanacek was 89th. He was 89th.
Yeah, so
he's like,
but like
he's in a similar-ish range. Like I think what separates them. Okay, a little bit bigger separation above, but still like minus like 2.5,
yeah,
minus
but
like 3.
if Vanacek can just spell like, if he can just play the 25 games and just have it more interspersed, I think they'll be okay. Because Vejmelka showed me something last year. I have to give him that. Like what he did, the amount of games he played, the amount of consecutive games he played, still to finish, 58 games, still to finish with a 14.2 goal save above expected. And again, the volume not at the beginning, at the back end of the year was extremely impressive for me. For a guy who I honestly wasn't expecting that from. And I think they're one of those teams too where they could trade for a goalie through the season or be in the Carter Hart sweepstakes, even though it seems like he's going to sign with Vegas. But they are a team that could trade for one. They have a ton of assets.
They have a ton of they have like Tejagin, Caleb Denoyer. Like they have a lot of pieces they could trade. Like those are just that's if you don't want to dip into your roster to trade someone, right? That's just if you want to just unload like those two guys in the first. That will probably get you
Simashev too, who's pretty.
Simashev too, yeah. Like you have a lot of pieces you can just use to get a goalie.
And that's to get like a really good goalie, because those are high end. Like a lot of times your goalies have been traded for a lot less. So if maybe there is a move, like again, I don't think the Kraken would trade Decord, but if it's on the table, that's a possibility. If maybe certain teams are out of it, certain guys might become available.
I was thinking even just a lower key acquisition. Like I don't know if Gibson from the Red Wings would make sense. Maybe I don't.
The only thing is they just got him, but like I think
if they're out of the playoff race though, like I'm just thinking maybe is there? I don't know how many years he has left on his contract. I don't know if it's 1 or 2. That kind of was what I.
But to your point, I think you mean like a guy like Alex Lyon or a guy like Dan Vladar, like just a guy who's gonna just be a reliable backup. I'm surprised they didn't bring in James Reimer as like a PTO. Plus, I think is he Mormon? No, he's not Mormon. He's something else.
He's
but
Christian.
anyways, is he Mennonite? Maybe he's Mennonite.
I have no clue what type of Christianity. I just know he's a Christian. I think from what I remember, he used to do the little like after the game, point up to the sky with his glove shit. I think that's what.
But there are guys like that are available that again can, if Vanacek just isn't looking it, you can trade for probably pretty early in the year. I think, especially in the case of Lyon and Vladar, guys who can just step in and be decent backups. So. Again, the Vanacek thing doesn't worry me as much because there is so much flexibility. Because the Ingram thing did sink them early in the year, I think, and then the second half it was just.
I think it sunk them so far. It sunk them so far they just couldn't dig themselves out of it, no matter how good they play. Plus, like when you start to run Vejmelka into the ground, like his play's gonna dip just due to fatigue. Like, you can't play a guy 20-something games in a row and expect him to be at the same level.
Yeah. Like, this could also be similar. Like, we talk about Montreal being the year before the year. This could also be the year before the year, but I'm buying in now. I think the defensive talent is there. The offensive talent is there. They have the assets. Like, I think this is the year they make a push. And honestly, there was a big argument for me to put them third. I just couldn't do it because of one guy on the team I have in 3. But we'll get to that in a sec. X Factor, Logan Cooley. I think for this team to hit their ceiling, he has to take that next leap to point per game center, and I think he can do it.
Yeah, because right now they don't have a center. They don't really have a center one. They tried Hayden. Hayden was a top 5 pick, right? He didn't
Hayden
really
can't
work out.
Score.
He can't score.
Does not have the scoring ability that.
So Cooley's their
next
closest bet. Cooley's basically their next closest bet to being a center one, unless they. I'm not going to say that they should wait for Denoyer, but like that's the only other guy I think in their system that could be has center one potential. Like he's a top 5 pick as well. And again, there's like a left wing, right? Like it feels like they almost have too many wingers, like too many good young wingers.
That's why I think there's going to be a move at some point, because when you think about Tija Ginla, you mentioned Denoyer, and you look at the guys on the roster. Like I get the Paterka move because it was getting like it was just getting a better asset in a way, or a higher upside asset. But yeah, there are almost too many wingers, and I do have to imagine one of these guys just has to get moved, whether it's for a center, whether it's for a D man or something. I have to think it's on the table, or even like I said, maybe a lesser asset for a goalie, or if a really good goalie becomes available, maybe you make the move. I don't know who that would be, but just one of those. But yeah, overall, I have this team fourth.
Feels
I'm
like
buying
Ginla's
in
probably
this
the
year.
one you ship, right? I feel like Ginla's the one you probably trade for the move. I'm looking at him just be like he had the hip surgery like last year. I don't know, like with younger guys, I don't know. Maybe it's just I know they can recover a lot better from those kind of surgeries, but I just don't like guys that are coming off like major-ish surgeries.
I'd like to see them. Okay, here's a trade that makes no sense, but I'd love to see it. A Ginla to the Flames for Kadri.
I mean, they need center depth, right? Like, I'd rather Kadri playing like second line minutes than, or even first line minutes. If
Like,
you need
wouldn't that just make both teams like perfect fits? I mean, granted, you got to bring a Ginla back to Calgary. Those a kid. Again, it's not going to happen because I know the value of a Ginla as a prospect is just a lot higher. But it'd just be cool for Calgary to get their guy, and like, I think Kadri just fits perfectly in Utah. But obviously, it's never going to happen. But But yeah, no,
I think
but
I was
overall,
thinking
I
like goalie wise too. Like I think Vejmelka's good, okay enough that like you don't need to trade a Ginla for a goalie for the time being, unless like Vejmelka like shits the bed.
Like I said, I think the most likely move if it's not Carter Hart is a guy like Vlader or Lyon, or if Detroit's just out of it early, maybe you could get like Gibson or even Talbot. Talbot's fine too.
Well, I think Gibson has 2 years left on his deal. I think this year and next year, so he might be a little bit tougher to get. I did look that up just to check because he was in his final year. Talbot looks more likely, but I'll check Talbot. That might be. We'll check after though.
All right, moving on. So the team I had in third was Winnipeg. Again, the only reason I couldn't drop them below Utah was really Connor Hellebuck. Like, let's just be real here. And my question for this team was, how much can Helly mask the inevitable offensive regression? Like, it's what sucks for Winnipeg is like last year felt like the year. Like everything broke their way, right? If you think about it, like all their players hit their best outcomes in terms of guys like Velarde, Iafallo to a lesser extent. Sandberg was really good last year. Hellebuck had the year, like at least the regular season of his career, I'd argue. Again, won the Hart and the Vezina. Their shooting percentage was insane. I believe they led the league or were second.
Yeah, they were top. They were essentially top 3. I think is the best way to sum this up.
So, like, just based on shooting percentage, again, this team's going to regress offensively to the mean a little bit. And the Ehlers' departure will hurt as well because, again, it's just a reliable goal scorer that you didn't replace. Now, granted, I don't think the Wings are as much of a concern because even though Perfetti doesn't have the goal scoring ability of Ehlers, it's like they do have guys ready to at least play the role to where it doesn't feel like a total loss. They have guys like Velarde who can just play that spot. Perfetti can move up in deployment. Like, that's fine. The Wings, if you look at the Wings overall, it's not much of a concern to me. They still have Connor, who's one of the best goal scorers in the league. The issue for me with this team is the centers, because Taves, we haven't seen him in 2 years, basically. It's a huge question mark, and how he will play is going to go a long way in answering where their depth is, center-wise.
I think it's Taves. Like Taves, obviously, because like he hasn't, like we mentioned, he needs to be a good second line center because they don't have one right now, and I don't really see like Nemestenkinov or Barron kind of coming up and taking that role. I think the other thing to watch out for in terms of Winnipeg is they are dealing with a decent chunk of injuries. Like Perfetti is supposed to miss a couple weeks. That already hurts their wing like talent because they already did lose Ehlers. So like it is kind of down to Connor and Velarde. And if they kind of feel top heavy because it's just it's gonna feel like that first line is gonna carry the offense for those first couple of weeks. And I think Sandberg's also out for a couple of weeks too, so that's gonna hurt them like defensively because he is one of the better defensive defense.
He is a good defensive defenseman. Like people
don't have him.
He didn't, like no one pays attention to Winnipeg, but Sandberg's good.
Also, the other thing too is Hayes is actually dealing with an injury too. So if he's hurt,
is he actually?
You're forced. Yeah, he's dealing with some sort. I don't know what injury it is, but it does say he's out on daily faceoff. I did see a couple of reports saying like, will he be ready for their season opener? So it seems like it's question mark there. But if he's not ready to go and he's going to miss a couple games, like you're going to have to elevate Nemestenkinov. And like this team already feels like it's just lost so much forward depth. Like you've lost a top 6 winger. You lost another basically top 6 winger to injury. And then you lose like the only real option you had at center 2 to injury. Now it suddenly feels like you're down to only your first line kind of having to carry you for those first couple weeks. And you also lose one of your better defensive defensemen. So that's going to hurt like your defense too, right? Because you're gonna have to elevate
So
somebody
even
else in that role.
yeah, and while the forward depth has their issues in terms of like the against the upper echelon teams, I think overall they'll still be balanced out a little bit, at least initially, because their defense, even though Sandberg is hurt, the injury is going to hurt, their defense is still really good. Like Morrissey, Pionk on alternate pairings, and you can just kind of slide in whoever you need there, and it'll be fine. And then Helly and Comrie, there's not much to say. Like that backbone is enough. If you combine with how good they were defensively last year, they were a good shot suppression team last year, and people will look at some of their PDO metrics and stuff, but realistically, you can never look at Winnipeg's PDO because Hellebuck's just so good in the regular season that he always makes it look like way better. Like I never look at those regression statistics in a way because Hellebuck just masks it all the time, and they don't, it doesn't account for that. But overall, like again, the defense, they're a really good shot suppression team, and they have Hellebuck and Comrie. Like while they're getting the forwards figured out, to me that's just enough. And Connor Hellebuck's just so good that I couldn't put them below third.
I think my only other question mark too is how much does Hellebuck replicate last year, right? Like, because I have to assume he doesn't have those same numbers again. Like, it would be crazy to do it again, but it will regress a little bit. Like, I'm not gonna say it's gonna regress to and the team's.
I mean, he's won the last 2 Vezina, so even if it regresses, if he's not heart level good, if he's just top 3 Vezina level good, that's
it's fine. It's fine, but I think the problem is because this team already lost so much at the margins, him regressing just feels worse. Whereas if you didn't lose all that at the margins, you can maybe get away with it a little bit more. Right?
The last 3 years, 249 goals against, 920 save percentage, 239, 921, 2 goals against, 925. I mean,
yeah, no, but I think my point is just again, when you lose at the margins a bit, any little thing that goes wrong will hurt you a bit
for sure.
more.
But I think their defense is good enough, especially as it's been under Arneal, that they'll be. I think they'll be fine to, even if there's a little bit of regression, they'll be fine. Again, I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year because last year did feel like the year for them, but. I think they'll be good enough for third place. And again, the X factor is obviously Connor Hellebuck. This team really does, to an extent, go as he goes. And the last 3 years, actually, I'd argue, honestly, the last X amount of years, because if you remember the early years when he was playing, they were leaking high danger chances left and right. He was bailing them out like crazy. But especially the last 3 years, he's just been the linchpin. This team, he's been the backbone to this team in the regular.
And you see, when he isn't, and you see when you see he isn't playing well. For example, I was gonna say, playoffs is the best reference. When he isn't playing well, the team just looks awful.
Yeah, they lost to Dallas, and honestly, I say this with both Colorado and Winnipeg. Dallas was not a good playoff team last year. If you watch them play game to game, the most inconsistent. They literally just. I feel like they were just getting by on star power, legit. And it's. And Hellebuck, unfortunately, was a big part of the reason Winnipeg, while it was a major part of why they did so good in the regular season, it was a major part of why they fell short in the playoffs because he was just so inconsistent game to game.
Yeah, I think the St. Louis series, they were so close to losing that St. Louis series because of his play. There was times where
they probably should have lost.
They probably should have. I mean, that 2 goals in the final minute was kind of crazy. I don't know. I remember I was at the Wild Wing watching it. And I was joking with my buddy. I was like that.
It was one of those games I had on in the background, kind of while it was going, not thinking anything was gonna happen, and then it started happening. I was like, "What in the fuck are we watching?" It reminded me of do you remember when San Antonio played Miami in that the NBA Finals Game 6, where you thought San Antonio pretty much had it, and then Ray Allen hits that 3. That's exactly what it felt like. I remember because we were all at the bar that day, and Ray Allen hits everyone just talking about everything else, and you kind of have one eye on the screen. And then Ray Allen just hit that 3. Everyone just turned, what the fuck? That's how I felt when Perfetti
I think that was crazy
that
too.
goal.
I think given the circumstances, when you're backpedaling into the corner, you have to backpedal enough to be behind the line, but you also have to backpedal enough that you don't step on the out of bounds line. Mm-hmm. And he's getting the ball as he's backpedaling too, and there's a defender in his face.
That's kind of how I felt about that Perfetti shot too. The timing of it, because it was really close to the end of the game. There was so much that went on. And that was there's no way they're losing this game now. There's that's my rule. If you score a goal like that at the end, sports logic says you are not losing that game.
Yeah, I think like momentum's such a big thing, right? When you swing the momentum like that, it is so deflating as a team watching that momentum swing against you. Like I think once it does swing against you, you kind of know that like you're not winning. Like for example, the best reference is when the Leafs blew that 3-goal lead against the
You can always
Bruins in
lose Leafs
2013.
reference.
You knew they weren't going to
100%.
win in
100%.
OT. Like you knew it was like done when they blew that lead.
All right, moving on to the next team here. Okay, I had Dallas at 2.
I put Dallas, yeah.
Okay,
I leaned Colorado for 1 just because again I'm a bit more favored on the star power. Plus the advanced metrics did favor Colorado a bit more.
so
and I do think
for
they've
me,
improved their depth too. Like the depth hasn't.
the main difference came down to continuity. So I'll talk about Dallas a bit because we gotta watch a lot of their games for better and worse. For me, the main question with this team is what will this team look like under Glenn Gulutzon? So on paper, top to bottom, this team has the most talent. Again, not the most high end talent because McKinnon and Makar are just on their own tier of player. But on paper, top to bottom, this team has the most talent in the division. That center depth of Hintz, Johnston, Duchesne, and Faxa is ridiculous. That is like anything you could ask for from a center grouping, you have it. You have scoring, you have defensive play, you have a fourth line grinder center, you have an up and coming guy, you have an old reliable veteran. Like anything you need is there, right? The wing depth took a bit of a hit. Now Mason Marchment's obviously gone. Although I don't mind losing his bad penalties from time to time because you don't understand. Watching Mason Marchment play is one of the most frustrating experiences.
Was it that play where he swung at the ref and he didn't get called? Like I remember there was a play I thought he swung at the ref. Like man, this guy just.
But when he does something, he'll do really good things too. So it's really annoying. And again, it's one of those things too. And also the thing with Mason Marchment is like you couldn't play him on certain lines because he was such a slow skater. And that again with Hintz sometimes, Johnson sometimes it just didn't seem like it worked. So yeah, there are some hits there with him gone. And you know they are moving guy like Mav Bork kind of has to play a middle top 6 role. Sagan, I'm kind of curious to see where he fits. He's starting on the third line, but I feel like it's gonna kind of probably gonna move up. And then Ben, I'll be curious to see where he goes when he comes back. So the wing depth took a bit of a hit, but like it's still solid. You still have Rantanen, you still have Robertson, you still have Sagan. Ben when he comes back, Mav Bork ready for a bigger role. And I feel like what's different with this team this year is they're entrenching young players versus moving them around. Because last year Peter DeBoer moved the lines around a lot. And it was getting kind of ridiculous. There were points where you had Wyatt Johnston on the third line, Rope Hintz on the third line. Guys were moving around everywhere. I feel like, weirdly, the departures actually allow these guys to be more entrenched in their roles.
Well, it also doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense to play Wyatt Johnston on the third line. It doesn't make sense to play Rope Hintz on the third line, right? Like, just some of those moves didn't make... Like, it didn't make sense to me as an outsider who doesn't watch the Stars. Like, I don't know if it made sense to you to have, like, Hintz or Johnston on the third line. It just doesn't... To me, it just doesn't feel that way, but...
And... my thing with this team is like they did coast a ton on talent offensively because people look at the Stars' finish last year and they're like, hey, like this team was real. But you don't understand, like the second half of the year, there was a lot of work in progress moments while they were integrating Rantanen. And if you watch the playoffs, it was basically a microcosm of what like the last 40 games was, where it was a lot of inconsistent play. But in the Colorado series, basically Rantanen and Harley and Hintz to a lesser extent stepped up and carried the team. And then in the second round, kind of a similar idea where certain players would just carry certain games. And it came to a crashing halt against Edmonton because Edmonton just, you know, the higher end talent and their system was just working at the time. And just after that first game, it just crushed. And you saw like Dallas was struggling to generate a team with this much talent should not be struggling to generate the chances they did. So there was a lot of weird things with their system last year. And a lot of times when they were doing well, it was on individual talents like Rantanen, like Hintz, to a lesser extent like Johnston, and then Heiskanen, Harley, etc. Right? But it's nice to know you have that as a fallback for this team to hit their ceiling. You do want to see everything flowing downstream and like actually playing a proper system you can identify with again stable lines.
Question about their defense. That's another point I would want to talk about. Do you have concerns about them having to play Niels Lundqvist like in the top 4 or in like and like?
I love their top 4. Lundqvist looked good last year until he got hurt.
I heard mixed things about Lundqvist. Like I heard he was good before he got hurt, and then when he came, like when he was like like but even before the injury, he did start to look like he was fault. I don't know. I heard a bit, kind of like a bit of chatter.
The
on both
first year
sides.
was horrible. The
So
second
the
year was
first
a
year was
lot
really
better.
horrible.
I do love the top four. If Harley continues his play from last year, I'll say this: top four might be the best top four in the NHL between Heiskanen, Lindell, like Lundqvist, and Harley. Because again, Harley second half of the year was really good. Heiskanen's one of the best two-way defensemen in the NHL,
defensemen, yeah.
And they don't call Esa Lindell Esa the suppressive for no reason, right?
He blocks a ton of shots. Like,
yeah, he's just a good defense. I kind of like him paired with Harley, but I get you have to have, they're both left-handed, so you kind of can't. But either way, it's fine. I think the healthy Heiskanen will be massive for the regular season because they were figuring out a lot while he was hurt. Again, a lot of Harley being there was kind of by force, and at a certain point, I think they were playing Harley and CC as like a top pairing, which thank goodness they don't have to do that anymore. And then Bichel and Petrovic, I think, is fine as like a last pairing. I think letting Bichel grow into the role in sheltered minutes, and Petrovic's
is it Petrovic right now instead of Lyubushkin? I'm just asking because it's the other face off showing Lyubushkin, so I'm not sure who it is. But like, does Bichel not feel overqualified as like a bottom pairing defenseman, or is he kind of?
Oh, did they switch it? They had it as Petrovic the day before. Okay,
no, I'm just wondering because I usually just have the most recent one up to.
I'd like Petrovic a bit better because Bichel's a decent skater, but they're both too physical defensemen. I'd like a puck moving guy. Maybe they end up moving Lundqvist down and Lyubushkin up, which isn't amazing, but it's not bad either. But overall, I think like the Lindell, Heiskanen, and Harley is just a really good.
Would it not be better to move Bichel up then at that point? Move Bichel up and then move.
I think he plays on the left.
Okay, so it is a side issue. Okay, so that's an issue. Okay.
And then the goaltending is still solid. As much as I feel like Ottinger's one of those goalies, he always leaves you wanting because the ceiling is just so good. But like we talked about it, like you compare his numbers to Vasilevsky, like from just a raw stats standpoint, it's a lot closer than you think. And DeSmith's a solid backup. Ottinger, again, I'd say he's a top 8 with the potential to be a top 3. And I just want to see that ceiling a little bit more consistently. But overall, this is a really good team.
I was going to joke. There's also no more Peter DeBoer to throw him under the bus again.
And Steve Spott, the power play terrorist. Like and this is why my X Factor is weird because for the first time, my X Factor is not a player. The X Factor for me for this team is Glenn Glutzen. Like he was the power play coach in Edmonton, and I have to assume he'll be better than Steve Spott. I just have to be because for this team, if you look at this team's power play rankings, the years Peter DeBoer was there, it does not make sense for this team to be where they were
ranked last year, right? 17th ranked last year,
but,
and then I think.
Let me pull up hold on one second. What it was the years before that?
So they were 17th last year. I think they were actually 6th 2 years ago, and then in 22-23, I believe they were 5th. So they were 5th, 6th, and then 17th in basically in succession.
But again,
the 5th and 6th feel fine.
The
17th doesn't make sense.
A lot of that, I hate to say it, and I know it's going to write this off, but like a lot of that was talent, man. Like they don't Steve Spott power play. You can ask any Stars fan. It's just, and you saw it in the playoffs against better teams. It just wasn't. There wasn't any cohesion to it, right? And part of Glenn Glutzen, I assume part of the reason Jim Nill brings him over is because, again, he can improve the power play. They have Neil Graham there as well. I'm just curious to see what he does with this team. Like, again, the lines seem like how I think they would go in terms of, again, Hintz on the first line, Duchesne Johnson on the second line, Duchesne on the third line, Fax on the last line. The wings are probably going to change once Ben comes back, but I am just curious to see what type of system he implements. Is it more puck moving? Is it more dump and chase? Again, what the power play is going to look like. There's just a lot of questions as to what, because this is a team that can win the cup, and it's just going to, and it's really rare that for a guy to get a chance to coach a team this good. Yes, Glenn Glutzen coached the Stars a long time ago, but they were basically in a rebuild. Like that was around the time I think Tom Hicks was basically near bankrupt, and like the team was just struggling to get, to sign, to basically pay,
Was that when the Rangers were bankrupt too? Like the Rangers, the Stars, every basically like
the Stars were specifically because of Tom Hicks. Let me pull up what year it was, but let me read you how bad this roster was. 1 second. So this was pre-rough, so it would have been 2012, 2013. Okay, let me read you how bad this roster was, okay? So this, granted, this was a lockout year. The number one point scoring the defensemen on this team were Alex Goligoski, uh, your favorite player, Stefan Robida, Brendan Dillon,
Oh god.
Jordy Ben, Aaron Rome.
Oh my. Yo, what is that
The
defensive
goaltenders were Kari Lettinen and Richard Bachman. Does anyone know who Richard Bachman is? No, probably not.
I swear he was the backup. He was always the backup or like the AHL starter for you guys essentially for like a ton of years.
The three leading scorers on this team were Jamie Benn, Ray Whitney, and Louis Eriksson. The fifth leading scorer was Jaromir Jagr at age 40.
Oh boy.
And they had players like Vernon Fiddler, Antoine Roussel, Trevor Daly. Like, this is a bad. Like the fact that this team, he finished 500 with this team was a miracle. And the year before, he actually finished above 500 with, again, they had their best players were their top four leading scorers were Louis Eriksson, Jamie Benn, Mike Ribeiro, and Michael Ryder.
Jeez.
And their number one leading defenseman was Alex Goligoski. Again, these were not good teams. So these were Alex Golzagansky, as people know him. But like, these were not good teams, is my point. So I'm not judging him for what he did previously. And I am curious to see what it looks like with him. But he is a big X factor because we don't know. Because it's been so long. And he's been an assistant coach for a while. And he's going to take over a team, like I said, that has on paper has the most talent top to bottom in the division. And is, came off 3 straight West. Say what you want about Peter DeBoer. They did come off 3 Western Conference finals. The expectations are high. So that's the only reason I couldn't put them ahead, is just because this coaching is such a big variable. We have no idea.
Well, also the one thing that Dallas could also improve is their power play, right? And like Glutzon was the power play coach in Edmonton. In the last 5 years,
I mean, the only thing I'll say with the Edmonton part is like, I don't know how much you had to do when you have McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bush.
Well, I was actually gonna say, like, I think even in okay, I'm trying to pull up an example here, but I think like a team like let's pull it up here. Okay, I was gonna try to reference like Toronto's had a kind of a dip in power play, even with like all their like talent. Like, when you have like, right, so it's like even to an extent, like if you have all that talent, you have to, if you find a way to not make it work, you're just like, you are just ass, because like if you have that much talent, you can't make it work. That's an issue. So like I assume like it's good that Glutzon at least can make it work with the talent. Plus, like, while Dallas doesn't have the same high end offensive talent, it's still really good offensive talent. So like he can't fuck it up any more than the last guy did, right? So
my thing is too, I just want to see with this team, what I want to see with Glutzon is just like, I just want to see again, like lines that aren't being changed all the time, a system, like a plan in place, both on the power play and on even strength. Because it seemed like a lot of times there, again, Dallas, especially last year, was just getting by on talent. And while this team is very talented, it's not good enough against really elite teams and teams with really, really high-end players. So, again, because of that, because of the question marks surrounding coaching, and because of the lack of continuity compared to Colorado, I just have them second here. But I think they're going to be really good. And like to me, it's like they're in that tier with Colorado, Edmonton, Vegas is like the class of the Western Conference, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, that's fair. I honestly think like again they could push for first, but I will admit I just like Colorado. I like the high end talent on Colorado.
Colorado
just a tad bit more.
For me, it's more continuity, right? Like their transition was like last year, whereas I think Dallas with the coaching is this year. Again, my question with Colorado is, and we have them first, can they replicate their second half form? I'll say this: the forward depth is a lot better than you think.
Yeah, it's better than what they had last year, because we talked about how like after the first line and even partially the second line before they made the trade for Nelson, like it felt like they didn't have the scoring depth. Whereas like, their acquisitions, like for example, I think Victor Olofsson is decent for the third line, and like now that they can push Ross Colton back down to the third line, like I think that's going to help the scoring depth, right? And then they have Landeskog was kind of like an acquisition in itself, like getting him back after
the Arsene Wenger acquisition.
The Arsene Wenger, exactly. So getting him back after 2 years is nice, and their wing depth is really good. Like does it suck not to have Rantanen? Yes, but it's still very good. A bunch of really good wingers. Like you can't complain. With
No,
what you have.
their center depth too. Logan O'Connor was really good in the playoffs for them last year, and everyone might forget that. But he's out right now. But when he comes back healthy and he's going to be on your third line, like you can move Jack Drury maybe down to the fourth line if you want. Like suddenly you have McKinnon, Nelson, and like my only issue with the center depth is while it's really good, Nelson wasn't like I'm starting to worry if Nelson was maybe a product of deployment with his numbers on the Isles, because if you pull up Nelson's numbers, it is very stark from when he came to Colorado versus what he was doing in New York. But I'm going to give him a little bit of a benefit of a doubt.
Yeah, like his shots on goal fell. Like his production, like it's funny because his production was kind of similar, but his like shots on goal fell. Like his involvement kind of dipped essentially. Is the way I look. I
think I look at the 2 years before where he was 0.84, 0.9, 3 years before he was 0.82, 0.91, 0.84, and then with Colorado he drops down to 0.68, and I don't know how much of a product of that might have been deployment, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of a doubt and see what it looks like because again he only played 19 games with Colorado last year, but I do like the center depth isn't as good as Dallas, but like it's better than it was first half of last year, where it was just McKinnon and a prayer. And again, when you have McKinnon, you can kind of you don't have to have as strong. It'd be nice, but it doesn't have to be because McKinnon plays so many minutes and does such a good carry job as long as he's healthy. The wing talent's incredible. It's like this team is stacked on the wings. It's frightening how good they are. Like every line, their top 3 lines all have capable, strong wingers. Like it's crazy.
I think there are some question marks with some of their wingers. Like I think the main one, for example, is Nichushkin. Is like, can he stop doing stupid shit off the ice? Landeskog again.
When they're on the ice, it's insane.
Landeskog's similar in the way that like he is coming off. He's still kind of like building himself back up. Like it's not like he's still kind of building himself back up to like play. So it's like I do wonder like if he does sit a bit here and there, just because like when you're coming off not playing for like two almost 3 years.
Like maybe he sits back to backs kind of thing.
Yeah, like I'm thinking there is that too. And then, but I mean the winger depth all around, they have good capable guys or guys that are capable of scoring across all like their first 3 lines winger wise.
So for me, I think when I look at it, it's the winger depth. As long as the guys stay on the ice for different reasons, both Landeskog and Nutrition, like you can play like Natchez and McKinnon play with anybody because. Again, Natchez fits perfectly McKinnon, where McKinnon does his fast, speedy breakouts into the zone, and Natchez fits perfectly. His best element is his speed and the way he gains the zone as well, so it fits. You can throw Lehkonen or Landeskog and it'd be fine, I think. Nichushkin, if you see their numbers with Nichushkin versus without, it's actually kind of crazy. Nichushkin's really good when he plays. Again, it's just, can he get out of his own way? And then, like I said, Colton, Olofsson, when O'Connor comes back, like that's a really good third line to me. I think the wing talent is really good on this team. It's just again, it's a question of health and in Landeskog's case, like how long it takes him to get up to 82 game speed versus, again, playoffs are smaller sample size, and there's more breaks sometimes in between the playoff games as well.
Yeah, because you have a lot more time between the rounds, right? I guess it didn't matter in their case because they didn't make it past the first round, but like.
Mm-hmm. I will say though, when he did play, he didn't look like he missed a beat, which I thought was really impressive. The other thing too, the only thing I'll say that I think the forwards are fine. I have no real issue with them. Again, I think there might be some concerns about the absolute ceiling if Nelson's just going to be a 0.65 point per game center. But overall, I think if he's 0.65 with Nichushkin and Landeskog flanking him, he has a lot more issues there because that. I wouldn't understand how that would be the case, but who knows? My issue with them is while they were decent defensively, like doesn't it feel like the defensive depth after Makar? I know it's like after Makar and Taves, who are both really fucking good, but it feels like a bit shaky.
It is a little bit shaky because like Gerard, like his play has dipped a little bit across the years, and like I don't know if I want a Brent Burns playing significant minutes in my top 4. And even like Manson's better suited for
especially if Gerard's form, because he has declined a bit defensively, and it's like, do you really want to throw him and Brent Burns was never good defensively.
Yeah, he's not a good defense. Yeah,
if Gerard's play continues to decline, like that is a liability potentially And again, their third line's just not. It's not anything to really write home about with Malinsky, and I like Manson. I think Manson's a solid third
Yeah,
line, like a third pairing defenseman. But it's whatever. I do worry about that second pairing though, and
yeah, they're not going to struggle to get offense out of them. They're going to struggle to get good defense out of them. That's the issue because like they like Brent Burns is very offensive oriented and doesn't play very good. Like there's always the jokes that he doesn't play very good defense, and like we talked about Gerard, like he has like his play has declined a bit over the years. It's not the same as it was a few years ago. So
now Bednar does mitigate this because he does play his best players more minutes than like any other coach in the league. Really, if you look at his like their minutes compared to say like Carolina, Dallas, Vegas, they're always on the McKinnon, McCarr. When Rantanen was there, they were always on the higher end of forward minutes. So it's going to be interesting. So they do mitigate that a bit. And then when you consider they play McCarr on the like, McCarr basically just does so much for this team. But again, I do have some questions about the defensive depth. Although, again, when you have McCarr and Taves, it's just it's so absurd how good those two are. Especially like McCarr. We don't need to talk much about McCarr. He's the best defenseman in the league. But like Taves as a 5-on-5 defenseman is so underrated. I think people have to like. It's because he plays. Don't get me wrong.
Like
he's not going to ever take on.
He's the perfect partner for McCarr, too, right? It's like it just works. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it just works so well with the two of them.
And while he's not an elite skater, he's not a bad one either. So like it doesn't look out of place where like you're not putting like Jan Ruda, you're not putting like
Jan Ruda, Victor Hedman
like,
kind of.
Yeah, like you're not putting lead bricks with him to like make it work.
You're not weighing him down with an anchor essentially. You're not anchoring.
And like I said, Taves is a consistent point scoring defenseman 5-on-5 too, which is nice. He's never going to hit McCarr's peak, but for what he provides, it's fine. Goaltending wise, Blackwood looked really good last year in a short sample size. There is questions about the larger sample, but overall, like I'm not worried about it this year as much. He looked really good in the playoffs last year too. Well, it was again a little bit inconsistent with Colorado's defense. I thought, at his peak in the playoffs, he was really good. Wedgwood was fine as a backup. Come on, sorry, the Yankees just bases loaded 2 out. But the Wedgwood's fine as a backup. He's been capable both in Dallas and in Colorado, so I've never really had issues with him there. My X factor for this team, it's Mac. There's 2 Macs. It's Mackenzie Blackwood. Again, he was really good last year. All his advanced metrics were really good. He provided a real stabilizing force. When you consider how much of a hole Alexander Georgiev dug.
Georgiev sank them early in the year. It was bad.
There were concerns of like, will this team make the playoffs?
Yeah, like, that was how bad it was. And it's funny because they were scoring 6-7 goals a game and they were still losing. Like I remember they lost the game 8-6. I'm like, you shouldn't be losing a game scoring 6 goals. Mm-mm. Like I was like, what is this defense doing? What is this goalie doing? And I'm glad they made the trade for Blackwood because Blackwood looked really good. And I'm not gonna lie, he did kind of save their season.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially when you consider, again, there's a stark contrast between the two, and like the Wedgwood trade to an extent as well. But yeah, for me, it's Blackwood. It's what's he going to look like overall. If he looks anything like he did last year, this team's a legit cup contender and will finish first, I think. If it starts to fall back to like that New Jersey era, they might be in a bit of trouble. But overall, I think he'll be fine.
There is a little bit of concern with him right now. I think he is hurt. He is going to miss their first game of the year. So I'm a little bit curious to see if the injury, like how severe the injury is. Like I'm hoping it's more of a day-to-day thing rather than like a week-to-week thing. Because if it's a week-to-week thing, I don't know if we can have Colorado up here. If it's a day-to-day thing, I think Colorado will be just fine. But I will have to play by the ear and see how that situation goes.
Also, right? In this division where you have Ottinger, you have Hellebuck, and
there is no room for
as annoying as Binnington is. Like when he's hot, he's as good.
Like he at least has flashes. Yeah, has flashes.
Yeah, like you kind of need that standout goalie, and this Colorado team is the best defensive support Blackwood's ever had in his career. So I mean, if it's the time to make it work, it's going to be this. But yeah, I have them at first because, again, I think last year was like their year where they were implementing a lot of new stuff midway through the year. And I think this year, now you have the continuity and the infrastructure. I think that's going to carry them with the star talent to first.
That makes sense. I mean, I am also curious. Again, like I mentioned, hopefully the injury is not serious because like if his injury is serious enough, then like this could like in a division with this much talent and this many good teams, like any any
Well,
error,
yeah,
or,
we
like
saw
any
it with
injury,
Kaprizov
just
last year, right? With the Wild, where they went from best in the division to basically they almost missed the playoffs.
yeah, it's like you have no margin for error in this division.
Yeah.
It's not like the
All right.
Pacific where if you're the Oilers, you can be asked for like half the year and you probably still just make it as a third seed or second seed.
Honestly,
I'm
I'd
not wrong.
argue in the Metro, in the New Jersey made the playoffs last year. Their second half was horrible.
And they also lost Jack Hughes too, like to basically for the year too. So, and they still made it in spite of that.
All right, so just to summarize, we have our final rankings here. Chicago in last, Nashville in seventh, Minnesota in sixth, St. Louis in fifth. Our 4 playoff teams, if 4 make it, Utah, Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado.
Yep.
Team you think would most likely win the cup from this division?
I'm gonna go Colorado because I think Dallas, like you mentioned, is in that transition year. Like I know they'll still figure it out, but like
I'm just gonna pick my team.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
I think okay, I won't dispute you on that because I think it's one of those things where if your team's there and they're good enough, like might as well
I'm just
go
gonna
with
pick
it.
my team.
It's kind of the joke we have in the fantasy, right? Like if it's between a player and a player that's from your team, and they're close enough players, you just go with the one from your team, right?
Exactly. Guy most likely to win MVP. It's weird because we have the last 2 MVPs are from this division.
Yeah, so I was gonna say like,
okay, so here's my hot take: Makar should be an MVP candidate at some point, but because they just give him the Norse, he's never gonna be. But he should be, in my opinion. I think I think it's most likely guy would be McKinnon, just because
most likely McKinnon. But I could see Hellebuck getting it again if Winnipeg like finishes like second or like gets even like finish like this,
if Winnipeg scoring sucks, but they're a top team for sure. Yeah. I could also see Rantanen if like Dallas, like if the Glutzin transition ends up fine, like ends up good, and Rantanen gets back to 100 points, I could see him as well. But most likely, I'd say McKinnon. Although I really like, I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna be a hot take. Sometimes when I watch Colorado, like Makar is the most valuable player. Like he's so in this. Like I know the playoffs were shaky with him, but like you don't understand the gravity Makar creates. Anytime he touches the puck is just like it's weird to say he's underrated in a way sometimes, but I really think some years he should get.
Well, I think he's underrated because like everyone just looks at McKinnon and like what he does, right? And the problem is it feels like he's never going to get that MVP because like if he has a good year, like McKinnon
also has a good
year, and it's like it kind of like just I don't want to.
It's not like Quinn Hughes where like Quinn Hughes can be an MVP candidate because like at most Elias Pettersson maybe hits 80. If you know,
like you saw Hughes was good when Pettersson had a ton of points, but you also saw Hughes was good when Pettersson was complete shit.
Yeah.
So
no, it's fair. It's just I'd say McKinnon, but I really want to see like a Makar MVP push, and if he gets near 100 points, I really think it should be.
I think if he breaks 100 points, he might get it low key, because defense like the last defenseman to break 100 points was what Carlson, like that last year in San Jose.
Yeah.
And also, I'm going to joke. Makar's not going to do it with a minus 25, so or minus 26. So yeah.
Hey. Look, man, don't disrespect Hall of Famer Erik Karlsson, okay? To me, people can I say this? People shit on that year, but like it was his age. What like it was basically one of his like later years to pull off that season. And he got really impressive.
It's funny because I had him in fantasy. You told me to pick him in like the 14th or 15th round, and I was like yoink, and I was like, oh, this is nice to have. It was a nice problem to have. It's like, oh, yep, my 15th round defenseman, 100 points, yep, sounds good to me.
I don't know. Like to me, EK should have won MVP that year. He carried Ottawa to the the Eastern, 1 goal away from the Cup final, basically on his back. Like that was
the year they lost to Pittsburgh in 7. Was that the one the Kunitz one?
Chris Kunitz. Chris Kunitz.
Yeah, okay.
Like that year, to me, he should have won MVP because he carried that team. Like that team was on a Guy Boucher defense, bro. And a Guy Boucher offense.
I'm shocked he had a job in the league at that point. Like I'm low key shocked he had a job in the league. Like
put that. Team
I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did. Like I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did too. My favorite memory is that time when it was, I think it was it the Philly Tampa game where like Pronger just had the puck and just kind of stood there on his on the face off and just like, I'm not going to move. And they blew it dead because he didn't move it. So then the next play they just kept the puck moving from side to side so they wouldn't get blown for the play blown dead.
Like, he has to be the most gimmick coach ever of like, his system works for 1 year every time and then just falls apart because teams adapt for it. It reminds me of those teams in like football who run those like weird offenses and everyone figures them out the year after.
Yeah, like they have these like really unique offenses. Like, you know, I was gonna joke, like I thought the Ravens were a little bit like that because like that year with Lamar where he won MVP.
That first
really
rookie
good.
year with Lamar, yeah, but then they changed to a more modern offense under Todd Monken.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's one of the, or like the Wildcat in Miami that 1 year where like it was, you know, they won the division title playing the Wildcat, running the Wildcat, and then everyone kind of figured it out the year after and they sucked. Because
was that when they had no, not Tebow, right? No,
Ronnie
I'm thinking,
Brown.
Sorry, I'm thinking of a complete different. My bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking the wrong one. My bad.
But yeah, that's what we have for the Central. Those are our division previews. Final things before we go. Stanley Cup final prediction.
It's got, I mean, from the East, Florida for sure. Like, I'm just gonna pick that right then and there. I would love to see a Florida, Colorado would be nice, and I think it really could happen. But I don't know. Like, I think I'll go Florida, Colorado.
I'll say, man, the Barkov.
I think you have to pick
really,
Florida for sure.
Because I think if Barkov doesn't come back, though, like Tampa has a really good shot, right?
My problem is like Tampa just got, like, I know like Tampa got, obviously when Barkov was there, Tampa just got slaughtered. So I'm wondering like if it's still close enough that like Florida can pull it out.
Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to bet against. I'll say Florida, Dallas, just because it's my team and they are good enough.
Well, I was gonna joke. You picked them more likely to win, like win the cup versus like Colorado. So like if you pick that, you can't say Colorado.
Well, I could have picked Vegas. I picked Florida, Vegas last year.
I mean, you got one half of that right, essentially.
So yeah, I say Florida, Dallas, MVP of the league.
Ooh, man, is it weird? No, I'm not kidding. I'm only gonna say this just because I feel like the voter. By the way, is it just weird that like it feels like one of McDavid will probably just get it just because like
he took the 12.5.
Yeah, or not even take 12. It's just like McDavid like just always has the benefit of the voters essentially. Like unless he gets hurt, unless he gets hurt. I
want to say Kucherov because he's led the league in scoring, but like the voters just don't like him.
Yeah, that's part of it too, right? They just hate him.
I'm gonna say Draisaitl. I think Draisaitl's defensive game took a massive leap last year, and I'd argue last year he was better. I don't know if obviously he won't hit the raw point totals McDavid ever will, but I think he'll be a better two-way player possibly, and I'll lean towards Draisaitl biases aside. Just because again, I would pick Kucherov if the voters weren't biased, but the voters hate Kucherov for some reason. Well, I mean, we know the reason, but you know.
Yeah, they fucking like they just hate him. It's okay, sad too because like Kucherov's like he has outscored McDavid and like I probably should have won MVP in one of these last like 2 years, but apparently
he should have won the McKinnon year. But I feel like they gave it to McKinnon because they didn't want him to not have one.
Is it weird that felt like a pity MVP? It was like he doesn't have one. He's come close so many times. Here's one just to like finally like put an end to all that.
Really, and that whole Kucherov at the All-Star game thing, if that was that year, kind of probably turned people off. But Kucherov was the better player that year. Okay, Norris.
It's hard to bet against. Right? It's hard to bet against
McCarr. Yeah, okay.
Like I can't like Hughes could is like probably the next closest guy, but like McCarr has the edge over Hughes for the time being.
Yeah, these awards are so boring for this. Vezina is it like I don't want to pick Kelly is because he can't win 3 in a row, right?
Never say never, bro.
Okay.
It has to be Helly. You can't like. It's Helly or like I guess like Vasilevsky. All right, it feels like one of those two. Like who are your other options? Like, but I just feel like the Rangers are too much of a wild card.
Yeah,
because you saw how bad the team in front of him was, right? So it's like I don't know, like.
Okay, yeah, fine. We'll say Hellebuck. Coach of the year.
Um. Ooh. I can't go Carberry again because Washington's not going to be as good. So I'm going to go with. Okay, I'm going to have to just pull up the standings real quick because there's too many guys like popping up to my head right now.
Okay, fine. In the meantime, while you're pulling up the standings, Rookie of the Year.
Rookies. Sorry, I actually have to think of which guys made the roster and which didn't. I'll. Is Misa a weird pick? Like, I don't know. I just don't know if he'll stick. Misa feels like he could if he sticks, but like I don't know if he'll stick the full 9 games. Like Schaefer's gonna stick too, but I don't know if he gets sent down too. Like defensemen have a harder time winning Rookie of the Year, especially a defenseman who makes it out of camp in his like age 18 year. Whereas like it was different with Hudson because Hudson at least had like a year or two in college before coming in, right?
If Ivan Demidov's a rookie, I'll say him.
I think he is. Yeah, Demidov probably has.
Yeah.
Like I think Demidov's pretty
Demidov or Buyam were my first two. I'll say Demidov just because I think he'll have the higher point totals. And Selke. Selke's interesting because we don't have
no more Barkov. Actually, just completely
there's a funny stat that was done where it's like because there's no Barkov and there's no Bergeron, it's like the amount of Selke votes that have been removed this year is insane. So it's actually going to be a new person. I'm going to say Anthony Cirelli.
It's Cirelli or Reinhardt, I think. So I think the center just gets the edge typically. So I'll just go Cirelli because center usually.
I'm going to say Cirelli, but I think it's going to be interesting because there's going to be Reinhardt, Cirelli, Hagel. I don't know. Maybe Lundell possibly could start making a push as well. There's going to be a lot of interesting players. Like now that we don't have, we don't have Barkov to just take vacuum all the votes, right? And deservedly so. And yeah, Coach of the Year.
Oh, okay. You know what? Is it weird to say if Anaheim does kind of like have a good year?
Could you imagine?
Jim Quenneville? Like, is it weird that I'm thinking that? Am I weird for thinking that though? Like,
no, that'd be so good. Could you imagine having to give Joel Quenneville
the coach, like the Jack Adams
Coach
Award,
of the Year, the year he comes back would be so good.
After all the shit that's happened, yeah, that'd be crazy. Sorry, I know that might be a controversial take, but it's just like
no, I would laugh if it happened.
I'm kind of curious what your choice is though. I was leaning Columbus. I was just thinking
Anaheim. I had Dina Vason because I'm really high on Columbus this year.
Yeah, you're higher on Columbus,
and I think if you look at to me, even though they almost made the playoffs, he should have got Coach of the Year votes last year. Just because of the job he did, I thought with one of the worst rosters going into
I also thought he did a good job adapting to because he was a defensive coach in Minnesota, and he kind of realized hey, I'm in Columbus. We have all this young offensive talent. Why the fuck do we just not use it? And hey, man, he used it pretty well.
Yeah, no. And then what's the last? Is there any other awards? We don't care about the Lady Bing.
We don't care. Art Ross? Do you want to know? I guess I don't know. It doesn't matter.
No, I mean, yeah, we can guess it. Rocket, I'm gonna. I feel like we do Matthews if he stays healthy, but
Matthews if he stays healthy. But I'm gonna go. Let me think. I'm trying to think if there's a bit of an outside the box pick I can kind of lean towards. I mean, Draisaitl won it last year, but that's not really an outside the box pick. It's just. Well, I guess weirdly, Nylander was second. I mean, as a far off second, but maybe he gets it in a surprise. That's a bit of a surprise. But hey, man, 40. Apparently, he was second in the league for goals. So,
let me think here.
Because it feels like
the only thing that holds me back from Pasternak is the lack of
the supporting cast. That's why. I'm just gonna I'm gonna go with wild card. I'll just go Nylander because I don't think Matthews will be healthy enough, and
I'll go could do it again. I'll go Tage against the machine.
I mean, he had one less goal than Nylander, so it's pretty, I mean that's about as close as you get. Yeah, he had 44. Yeah, so
okay,
and Nylander had 45.
Guy who's gonna lead the league in points.
Kucherov. Yeah, I know people say McDavid, but Kucherov's done it the last 2 years, so I can't vote. I can't bet against him. When you're the guy that scores more points than arguably the best hockey player out there right now, can I really bet against you? No.
I mean, the argument is that I guess you can make an argument for maybe games played, but I mean, he played what 11 less games, 21 McDavid.
I think like again because McDavid we need to score at a 2-point per game pace over those 11 games to make up the difference, right? And I don't think he's ever averaged that over like a season. Like he's averaged 1.7.
Well, the thing with McDavid too is generally his points come via assists, and the supporting cast he's still going to be really good. The supporting cast is definitely a lot weaker than
like Kucherov's, right?
Yeah, I'll say Kuch as well. Okay, all right. Yeah, that's our season preview. Again, hope you guys enjoy it. The season started, so it's kind of a lull this week though before we get to what really picks up next week. We hope you guys enjoy. We're going to be here basically through the entire season, probably 1 to 2 podcasts a week, depending. Early might just be like
early's gonna be one, but then like as trades pick up, as other news happens, yeah. I don't know. Like you don't care about the World Juniors, but like maybe that World Juniors like every week we'll do one. I'd like to do one extra one for that one, like just have 2 that week instead of 1, because like again that's kind of the one I pay the most attention to, because like there is less NHL hockey that happens during that time anyways, right? So by default I have less hockey to watch, so might as well just pay attention to the World Juniors at that point. So.
No, for sure. I mean, in your case, yeah.
And then we'll definitely do a bit more closer to the Olympics too, right? Because we're probably going to preview all the different teams for the Olympics as well. That's something else a little bit different. We finally have the NHLers in the Olympics, so that's also something for us to look forward to as well.
Do we get Russia in the Olympics?
No, I think that's still a no. That's the
are they okay? But are they there? But they just have to play under another banner, or is it just no Russian players? Period.
Let me check. Yep.
Because I don't want to be political. But
I think they're still banned. Yeah, excluded. Okay. Yeah, Russia excluded from 2026.
I'm not gonna say anything. So
yeah, Russia excluded from 2026 Olympic ice hockey tournaments. So no men's or women's teams either way. So it's gonna suck.
Actually, I don't know. Is this a fair take? This is a hot take. I think it's unfair that like Russia's banned from world events, but Israel's not. I think it should be either both are banned or like none are.
Well, I'm noticing in other sports they are actually trying to get Israel banned now. Like I think they're trying to get.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, they're trying. Like I've heard there's been more traction where they're petitioning to not let them in the World Cup. Like for
like if that's what they're doing, that's fine. I just find this like
it is hypocritical that you let one but you don't let the other. It's either you let both or you don't let either. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at. Like, don't get me wrong, Israel's never going to be good enough at hockey, most likely in my lifetime. But I mean, I do find it weird that like there is this take on it because I know Israel is not banned for the Olympics, but Russia is. It's just kind of weird to me. I don't know, but. Anyways, yeah, next podcast, I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk a bit of fantasy. Granted, it is early, but some teams are you kind of see their deployments. We're going to talk about some position battles and guys, just things to keep a watch on early in the season. Again, I don't think you should overreact to moves necessarily, but I do think there are some things we should be monitoring in terms of how it affects like fantasy rankings going forward.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. For us to toe in the crease, the Jays unfortunately just lost, so we got to mourn a little. I'm SJ. Yeah. That's WillyDubz. We're signing out before the Toronto sports fan PTSD kicks in. Later.
All right, see you guys later. Peace.